I proposed to my brother's wedding planner at his wedding. I was just looking for the ice machine, not someone's tongue down my throat. But hey, shit happens. I took a wrong turn, opened a door that wasn't labelled, and suddenly I was in a dark little supply closet that smelled like champagne and Windex and danger, and him. He was already inside, tall, blonde, smiling like trouble. I don't even know how it started. One second he was saying something about the minibar, the next his hand was in my hair and my back was hitting a shelf of paper napkins. And listen, I could have said no. I should have said no. But his laugh was warm. His suit smelled like vanilla and leather, and he kissed like a man who had absolutely nothing to lose. So, yeah, I kissed back. Hard. He pressed me against the wall like he owned it, like he owned me. Hands at my waist, mouth hot on my neck, a low little noise in his throat that did dangerous things to my blood pressure. "You taste like vodka and poor decisions," he muttered, grinning against my jaw. "You taste like ego," I shot back, panting. So you like it?" God, I hated that I did. We fumbled. I tugged at his tie. He slid a hand under my shirt like he already knew what I'd feel like. Like he'd imagined it. My knees were literally weak. I wanted more. I wanted everything. And then the closet door opened. Light, laughter, screaming. "Oh my God! This is a supply closet?" Someone dropped a tray. The blonde stranger pulled back, blinking like he'd just remembered where we were. His mouth was swollen. Mine probably was too. He cleared his throat, smiled. "Well, that was fun." He fixed his collar, winked, and stepped out into the hallway like he hadn't just licked my soul out of my mouth. I stood there, dazed, pants crooked, heart absolutely ruined. And then, I walked into the lobby 10 minutes later and saw him again. He stood by a giant display board that said, "Welcome to Ben and Jessica's big day," in cursive gold font. Beside a table of hydrangeas, holding a damn clipboard, smiling at my mother like he hadn't just moaned into my mouth 15 minutes ago. Oliver, head planner. Wait a damn minute. What the actual A few minutes later, I stood in the hotel lobby like I'd just been pantsed in public. Sweaty palms, spinning brain, heart doing parkour in my chest. Because there he was, closet guy, in a peach-colored suit, hair perfect, clipboard in hand, talking to my mother like they'd been brunching for years. Oliver, head planner. I wanted to scream. "Liam," my brother called out, cheerful and oblivious. "Come meet Oliver." Too late to run, too late to die. Oliver turned, his expression all smooth confidence. No flicker of panic, no, "Hey, weren't you just on top of me in a closet" energy. "Oh," he said, voice cool and lazy. "We've met." Arsehole. I forced a smile and shook his hand. His grip was light, but he lingered. "Liam's my little brother," Ben added proudly, tossing an arm around me. "Total cynic. You'll love him." Oliver's eyes sparkled like he already did. "A skeptic at a wedding?" he mused. "How delicious." I wanted the ground to swallow me. Instead, I got pastel chaos and a sadist with perfect cheekbones. Later that day, I showed up late, hungover, a mild regret headache pounding behind my eyes. Ben told me to stop being a menace and at least pretend you care. I was planning on surviving the cake tasting by chewing and nodding, nothing more, until I saw Oliver, laughing with my future sister-in-law, Jessica, pouring champagne, dressed like a bisexual Valentine's Day card. "Be gentle," he whispered behind me as I reached for a tiny fondant sample. "She's sensitive." I nearly punched him. "Jesus," I muttered. "Warn a guy." He just smiled, all smug and sunny. "You flirt with everyone?" I asked, trying to sound bored, not jealous, not anything. He smirked. "Only the cute ones." "Guess I'm safe then." "Oh, honey, you were in a closet with me last night. Nothing about you is safe." I choked on a macaron. He patted my back, sweetly, innocently, and I realized something horrifying. He wasn't going to pretend it didn't happen. He was going to enjoy watching me squirm. The next morning. Apparently, sarcasm wasn't considered a contribution, so my brother and Jessica drafted me into helping with the seating chart, which meant sitting cross-legged on the carpet with Oliver and about 200 name tags, who, for some reason, was chewing on the cap of the pen in a way that should be illegal. I was about 5 minutes into arguing that Uncle Pete should not be seated anywhere near an open bar when Oliver slid a mug of coffee next to me. "Truce?" he said. "This is war?" I asked. "Isn't it always?" I rolled my eyes, but took the coffee. He had good taste. Vanilla and cinnamon. Exactly the kind I would have picked if I believed in fate, which I didn't. "You're really bad at this," he said, watching me struggle with name tags. "Thanks. Your encouragement means everything." "No, I mean, you keep trying to separate the drama. You should cluster it. Group all the X's at one table and let natural selection take over. You're unhinged. And you're watching me again." I looked away. "I'm judging you," I muttered. "While biting your lip?" I almost spilled the coffee. "I'm going to kill you. I'd haunt you, in really flattering outfits." Somewhere between laughing and threatening him with a gel pen, I noticed something. He was still chewing the pen cap, still glancing at me when he thought I wasn't looking, still leaning just a little too close. And I wasn't pulling away. Later that night, I'd just gotten into bed when my phone buzzed. Oliver. "Liam, I need help, and possibly bail money." Me. "I'm ignoring this." Oliver. "I'm outside." He wasn't kidding. I opened the door to find him standing on the porch, soaked in sweat and holding a half-crushed flower bucket. "Don't ask," he said, deadpan. "Just, do you have a car?" 15 minutes later, we were in the parking lot behind a floral warehouse, fending off a raccoon while Oliver screamed about peony theft, and I tried not to pass out from the smell of eucalyptus. "You didn't have to come," he said quietly, once we'd secured the flowers. "Yeah, well, I was already awake." I lied. He looked at me, really looked, soft, not flirty, just grateful. "You didn't even ask why I needed help." "Because I knew you'd tell me anyway." He smiled, small and kind of sad. "You're nice." "Gross." He laughed, reached over, brushed a petal from my hoodie, fingertips grazing my collarbone. "You don't believe in this stuff, do you?" he asked. "Weddings, love, all of it?" "Not even a little," I said. He went quiet again, eyes fixed on the dashboard. "Yeah," he murmured. By the time the stolen peonies were safe, Oliver was half asleep in my passenger seat, mumbling about ex-fiancés and missed flights. I let him talk. I remembered more than he thought I would. And I kept sneaking glances at him for the rest of the drive, and maybe, for the first time, I wished I did believe, just a little. The next night. If hell had a ballroom, this was it. Water sloshed beneath my sneakers as I stepped into the reception hall. The pipe had burst right under the romantic lighting system, shorting half the chandeliers and turning the floor into a puddle of floral-scented regret. Jessica was stress-crying in the corner, and Oliver looked like a man 1 inch away from setting something on fire. His pastel pink shirt was soaked through, clinging to his chest in a way that would have been distracting if he wasn't actively yelling into a Bluetooth headset. "I told them twice not to overload the East Wing outlets," he snapped. "Now we're swimming in carnation water, and the string quartet refuses to perform unless they're emotionally supported." I blinked. "Is that a real sentence you just said?" He yanked the earpiece out and turned to me. "What are you doing here?" "I got a text from Ben. It sounded like someone was dying." "They might, depending on how many vendors cancel." There was a pause. "You're bleeding glitter," I said helpfully, pointing to his temple. He wiped it with the back of his hand, smearing it worse. It's not glitter, it's edible shimmer dust. Why does that make it worse? He let out a sharp breath. You're not helping. Good. I wasn't trying to. Still, I didn't leave. Somehow ended up moving boxes, shoving cords into dry corners, carrying centerpieces out into the night air like they were wounded soldiers. At some point, someone handed us wine, probably Jessica, who was already 3 glasses deep and muttering about cancelling the whole thing and eloping to Iceland. We ended up back at the hotel suite Oliver was using as command central, both of us damp, exhausted, sitting on the couch with a bottle of stolen bridal wine between us. He took a sip, passed it to me. You didn't have to stay. I didn't want to go back and listen to Ben cry into a playlist again. He laughed, quiet, tired. I think I've finally broken. I looked at him, at the way he was slouched over, one leg tucked up under him, hair flopping over his forehead. His usual shine was dulled tonight, like someone had taken a soft cloth and rubbed the gloss off. I thought you liked this stuff, I said. Weddings, love, all that glittery bullshit. I did, he stared into his glass. Once. There was a long pause, and then he looked up at me, and his expression changed. Like something flicked behind his eyes, something quiet, something real. I didn't breathe. He leaned in, slow, just enough for me to notice, just enough to make my heart stutter. I leaned too. It wasn't a kiss yet, it was almost. And then, bang, bang, bang. Guys, the peonies are here early, Jessica shouted. They're wilting! Oliver jerked back so fast he nearly fell off the couch. I stood, fast, too fast. I'll get it. He didn't say anything. Just set his wine down and looked away. But as I walked out the door, something clung to me. That almost, that breathless, weightless, should-have-been kiss. And it stayed with me all night. The next morning, I showed up to the ceremony layout walkthrough with sunglasses, a hangover, and a firm plan to pretend none of it ever happened. Oliver was already there, hair perfect, shirt crisp, clipboard aggressively color-coded. He didn't look at me. Hey, I said. Morning, he replied, eyes still on his notes. No darling, no wink, not even a smirk. Okay, fine. I grabbed a muffin from the catering sample tray. Did you sleep? Eventually. Cool. I didn't. Shocking. Still didn't look at me. I bit into the muffin. It was dry, just like the vibe. We walked through the tent setup. Jessica bounced around showing people Pinterest screenshots. Ben was smiling at everything like a proud puppy, and Oliver? He was fine. Like the night before had been a glitch in the simulation. Like we hadn't almost kissed, hadn't sat inches apart in candlelight, hadn't almost changed everything. I cracked a joke about the tent looking like a giant condom. Usually, that'd earn me a glare and a grin. This time, nothing. Guess I'm off my game, I muttered. Oliver looked up briefly. What was that? Nothing, just enjoying the tension. He gave a tight smile. Let's stay focused, yeah? Right, focused. On the wedding, on the job. Not on how it felt like the bottom had dropped out of something I wasn't supposed to be standing on. I didn't know if he was angry or hurt or just indifferent, and I hated that I cared, because this wasn't my story. It was Ben's. Ben and Jessica's perfect fairy tale wedding. Not my mess. Not my almost kiss with tons of feelings. Not my love story. But God, it sure as hell felt like the part of the movie where the love interest walks away, and I couldn't figure out whether I'd pushed him or he just gave up. A few hours later. The thing about pretending nothing happened, you start to convince yourself it's true. I threw myself into distractions. Walks, work, DMs I shouldn't have answered. The guy I met outside the hotel gym who had abs like a Greek statue, and the emotional depth of a rice cracker. We made out in a parked car while I silently begged him to taste like someone else. He didn't. The next day, I showed up to the flower arrangement duty, late and rumpled, wearing sunglasses indoors like a very hungover disaster. Oliver barely looked at me. Not once. No sarcastic, "Sleep well, darling." No, "You smell like regret." He was all business, all clipboard, all, "Put that peony down. It's supposed to be delicately tuft, not manhandled." I cracked a joke. Something dumb about ferns being nature's throw pillows. He didn't laugh. He didn't even pretend to laugh. That stung more than it should have. Ben noticed. After Oliver left to go terrorize the linen vendor, my brother cornered me by the cupcake tower. "Did you two fight?" "What? No." "You sure? Because it kind of feels like you're avoiding him, and he's avoiding eye contact and joy." I shrugged, bit into a lemon cupcake. Ben stared at me. "Liam." "I'm fine. He's fine. We're all fine. You're getting married. Everything is sunshine and edible shimmer." Ben didn't press, just sighed and said, "You don't have to sabotage every good thing before it starts." And then walked off. I stood there, chewing frosting, wondering why it suddenly tasted like guilt. A few days later. The next few days blurred into chaos. Tuxes, timelines, tantrums. Jessica had 3 dress fittings and a minor meltdown over the cake flavor. "I said almond, not almond adjacent." Oliver was everywhere. Charming, efficient, the golden boy with a plan. Except he wasn't himself. He didn't tease me anymore. Didn't call me pet names. No more flirty shoulder brushes or suggestive pen chewing, or fake scolding me for sitting on the table linens. It was like someone had turned down the color on him, muted the sparkle, shut the door. I should have been relieved. This was what I wanted, right? Distance, boundaries, a neat little wall between my very confusing feelings and the man I'd almost kissed while drunk and emotionally compromised. But the thing is, I missed it. I missed him. I missed the way he used to laugh at my terrible jokes, the way he'd roll his eyes like I annoyed him and then lean a little closer anyway. I missed the way he made weddings look worth it. Now it all felt hollow. Like we'd built something light and strange and wonderful between us, and I'd let it go cold just because I was scared it might be real. One night, I walked into the storage room looking for extra ribbons. Oliver was already in there, alone, sitting on the floor, swiping through floral invoices and sipping from a paper coffee cup. He glanced up. His face was blank. "Oh, it's you." That was all he said. No teasing, no bitter remark, not even a smile. And I realized something right then, deep in my gut. He wasn't pretending it didn't matter. He was pretending I didn't. And that was worse than any fight. That was silence. That was punishment. And maybe I deserved it, because I hadn't said a word when I should have. Because I let the almost kiss become an almost everything. Later that afternoon. It was the rehearsal brunch, the most unnecessarily stressful brunch in the history of brunches. I was pretending to help Jessica with her welcome speech, Reed holding her mimosa while she insulted every font on her printed draft, when I heard the door open, and the room got weirdly quiet, like church after someone farts quiet. I turned, and there he was, tall, sharp-jawed, dressed in some pretentious Eurofit button-up that probably cost more than my car insurance. He had the kind of confidence that only came from being both incredibly hot and completely forgiven by society for it. And the worst part? Oliver froze. Not his usual polished, "Oh, I'm annoyed but still perfect" freeze. This was something else, a flicker of real panic. Like someone had punched the wind out of him. "Hey, Ollie," the guy said, smiling like he owned the place. "Still stunning, I see." Ollie? Oh, no. Oh, fuck no. "Oh, hey, glad you could make it," Jessica said, ditching her speech note. I could sense my gaze turning murderous. All I wanted to do was hit him with a centerpiece. Ben stepped in like a true best brother, polite, confused, offered a handshake and a nervous laugh, and the guy introduced himself. Julian. Oliver's ex-fiancée, and apparently Jessica's old colleague. What a small world. Yeah, him. The one I'd only heard about in passing, once, when Oliver was half asleep in my passenger seat after the raccoon peony incident. The one who wasn't worth talking about. The one who ghosted mid-dress rehearsal and left Oliver to explain to 200 guests that the wedding was off. No one knew about him. But what a plot twist. Jessica had invited him, and since it was a sudden invite, it made total sense why Oliver had no idea about him. Julian, the man who broke his heart, was now standing close enough, all smiling while I tried not to stare. Tried to look cool, indifferent, not wildly possessive of a man who currently wasn't even speaking to me. He then leaned in, kissed Oliver's cheek, and Oliver let him. Not smiled, not flinched, just accepted it. Like he'd spent years training himself not to care anymore. And I hated how good he was at it. The rest of brunch passed in a daze. People chatted, toasts were made, Jessica found a font she could live with, and I eavesdropped, caught a fight outside the venue kitchen. Their voices were low, sharp. I couldn't hear everything, just pieces. Julian, you're still angry. I get it. But we were good, Ollie. Don't lie and say we weren't. Oliver, we were a promise you didn't keep. Julian, I got scared. You scared me. How serious you were. How beautiful everything was. I couldn't live up to it. Oliver, that's why I do this now, you know? Weddings, I make them beautiful. I make them perfect. Julian, because you stopped believing in them? Oliver, because someone had to. I walked away before I heard the rest. Walked fast, hands clenched, jaw tight. And all I could think was, this was my fault. He trusted someone once. He trusted me, almost, and I ran, just like the guy before me, and now I couldn't tell if he still wanted anyone to stay. About an hour later. It started with a cake. Not metaphorically, a real cake. The cake. The 6-tiered, hand-painted lemon-lavender monstrosity Jessica had been dreaming about since Pinterest was born. And now, it was melting. Literally, sliding like a sugary landslide into its own damn soul in the back of a delivery van. I found Oliver mid-sprint, barking orders into a headset. Mascara slightly smudged, which I didn't notice, okay, and looking like he was about to commit homicide via buttercream. "Tell them to salvage what they can and stack it with dowels," he snapped. "No, I don't care if it leans. We'll call it rustic European. Just keep it from collapsing." I stepped in front of him, held out an iced coffee. No words. He blinked, took it, sipped, paused, looked at me. "Why are you helping?" "I heard there was a cake funeral," I said. Thought I'd pay my respects. Something shifted, just a little. His shoulders relaxed, his eyes softened. We fixed it, together. We restructured the tables, swapped in cupcakes. Jessica cried, then called me a genius, and I stayed until every last flower was rewired into something that didn't scream, "We almost died today." By the end of it, we were sitting on the floor of the ballroom, legs stretched out, frosting on our sleeves. He leaned his head against the wall, exhaled. "You know," he said quietly, "you're not nearly as useless as you pretend to be." "I like to keep expectations low," I muttered. He glanced at me, smiled, but sad this time. "That's not always a good thing, Liam." And for once, I didn't joke back. A few hours later. I don't give speeches. Never have. Never plan to. Words are for people who don't live in their own heads 90% of the time. But I'd watched Oliver work himself into the ground this week. Watched Ben cry 3 separate times because the napkins weren't blush enough. Watched Jessica snap at everyone except me, because somehow I'd become the guy who fixed things. So, yeah, I gave a speech. It wasn't long. I stood up at the rehearsal dinner, tapped my fork to the glass, cleared my throat. "I'm Liam," I said, and got a few polite chuckles because, yes, obviously, I was Liam. I'm the brother who thinks all this is ridiculous, who thinks weddings are stressful, overpriced theatre for people who still think miniature food is classy. More chuckles. "But," I added, I've watched two people this week show up for each other again and again, laugh in the middle of a disaster, forgive each other's worst moods, fight about Thule, and still want to say yes. I looked at Ben, at Jessica, then at someone else. Didn't say his name, but he knew. Everyone knew. And I think maybe love's not about perfection. It's about choosing someone, over and over, even when everything's on fire, even when it's hard, even when they flirt with your little brother at cake tastings. Laughter. I don't know if I believe in weddings, I said, but I think I'd believe in one, if it was the right person. And then I sat down. My hand brushed Oliver's under the table. He didn't pull away. A few hours later. The ceremony was over. People were tipsy, laughing. Someone's aunt had unzipped her dress halfway down and was fanning herself with a centerpiece menu. Jessica looked radiant. Ben was glowing. And Oliver, he was sparkling, happy. We were standing near the dance floor. I was pretending not to stare at the back of his neck. He was pretending not to fix my boutonniere every 5 seconds. And then it happened. My cousin Greg, sweet, dumb Greg, grabbed the mic like it was karaoke night and he'd just discovered jazz. Okay, everyone. Time for the surprise video Jessica planned. Oliver stiffened beside me. Jessica frowned. What video? But it was too late. The screen flickered, and suddenly we were all watching me. Not talking, not even moving much, just looking at Oliver, laughing too hard at his jokes, blushing during cake tastings, sneaking glances during the flower trials, smiling like an idiot when he wasn't even facing me. Each clip was subtitled. Heart, the brother who didn't believe in love. Heart, should I tell him he makes me believe again? Heart, do I like him or just the way he says my name? Heart, okay, yeah, I like him. I froze. The room gasped. Someone sobbed. Ben whispered, "Oh my God," and promptly burst into tears. Oliver? He didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't blink. I think my soul left my body. He turned to me, very slowly, eyes wide, face pale, and then he ran. Literally bolted out of the ballroom like someone had screamed, "Fire," and handed him track shoes. I stood there, stunned, wine glass in one hand, the weight of 1,000 unsaid things sitting right on my chest. Off to the side, I caught the tiniest movement. Milo, Oliver's assistant, slapping their forehead with both hands. "Shit," they muttered under their breath. "That was not the final cut." Jessica's eyes snapped to them. "You made that? It was supposed to be for his website," Milo said, clearly panicking. "It was supposed to be for Oliver's business site. Weddings that work. A highlights reel, you know? But Liam kept showing up in the best moments and I might have gotten invested." "Oh my God," Jessica whispered. "It was so romantic." I was still frozen, still breathless, because for a split second, before Oliver ran, I saw his face. And he wasn't just shocked, he was terrified. Like maybe he felt the same. And then he ran, like literally bolted out of the ballroom. And I stood there, stunned, wine glass in one hand, the weight of 1,000 unsaid things sitting right on my chest. A few minutes later, I didn't think. I just ran after him. Oliver had bolted the second that damn video started playing, somewhere between the "do I like him" and the "okay, yeah, I like him." Gone. Just gone. Through the crowd, out the doors, past the bar, I nearly tripped over a flower girl. "Liam, where are you?" "Fix the playlist," I shouted to nobody in particular and kept going. I found him under the wedding arch. The one he'd obsessed over for weeks. Every petal placed with the kind of care people usually reserved for infants or soufflés. He stood there, shoulders tense, arms crossed, jaw clenched, like he was waiting for the sky to fall. Oliver? He didn't turn. I stepped closer, softer now. "You okay?" He exhaled a shaky breath. "Don't, Liam. Just don't make this worse." "Worse than what?" I said. "Everyone knowing I'm stupidly into you?" He finally looked at me, eyes wet and furious. "You said you don't believe in love." "I didn't," I said. "Not the stupid, glitter-covered kind with hashtags and doves. Not until—" "Don't say it! Until you." He froze. "I didn't believe in love," I said, "because I didn't think it looked like this. Like flower emergencies and late-night raccoon rescues. Like someone calling me darling just to mess with me. And then meaning it." He blinked fast. "That video was real," I said. "Apparently, I've been in a rom-com this whole time and didn't get the memo." He laughed, once, bitter. "You didn't even want to be part of this wedding." "I didn't," I agreed. "But I do want to be part of the next one." That got his attention. He stared at me, mouth open, barely breathing. No ring, no kneeling, just... I reached for his hand. "If I believed in love, it'd be with you. So what do you say? Want to plan another wedding?" For a second, nothing. And then, "You're such an idiot," he said. "But I'm your idiot," I offered. He burst out laughing. "Yes, fine, God, yes." I grinned like a lunatic and kissed him under the arch, surrounded by the flowers he loved and the chaos I never thought I'd find home in. Somewhere behind us, my brother shouted, "Someone film this!" Phones went up. Jessica screamed. Someone uncorked champagne like it was a Formula One race. And us? We stayed there. Messy, breathless, stupidly, disgustingly happy. Turns out, I do believe in love. Just had to meet the right disaster in pastels first. 3 years later. "Oliver," I said, stepping over the rogue pile of ribbon, "tell me why there are 5 types of roses in our kitchen." He didn't even look up from his clipboard. 6, actually. You're forgetting the David or Stens. "Is David going to officiate the wedding, or—" Oliver sighed dramatically. "Do you want our altar to look like a supermarket bouquet? I want to eat breakfast without a fern attacking me." He finally glanced up, hair tousled, shirt half-buttoned, glitter on his eyelid, for reasons I didn't want to ask about. God, I was going to marry this man. It's hard to believe Ben and Jessica's wedding was 3 years ago. Harder still to believe Oliver and I finally caved to planning our own. You'd think living with a wedding planner would mean we'd elope to avoid this circus. But no, he wants everything perfect. For us this time. "If you hate it so much," he said, crossing the room and poking a daisy in my chest, "maybe you shouldn't have proposed under a wedding arch like a rom-com character." "You liked it." "I cried for 4 hours and then made out with you behind the dessert table." "Exactly. You're welcome." He smirked. "You're still annoying. You're still planning our wedding like it's the Met Gala." "That's because it is, Liam, but with more lesbians." I snorted, stepping closer. "How long until you snap and set the seating chart on fire?" "Don't tempt me," he said, eyes sparkling. There was cake batter on his cheek. I kissed it, and for a second, everything went quiet, the chaos fading to the background. Just him, just us. "I can't believe we're really doing this," I said, voice a little stupid soft. His arms slid around my neck. "I can." "Yeah?" He nodded. 3 years ago, you didn't believe in love. Now, you're letting me plan a wedding with an orchid chandelier. That's growth." I laughed. I'd plan 100 ridiculous weddings if it meant I got to keep waking up next to you. "You sap. You married me." "Almost married you. Don't jinx it." Right then, a loud crash came from the living room, followed by Jessica's voice yelling, "The puppy just peed on the invites!" We both groaned. "Still time to run," I said, only half kidding. Oliver just pulled me closer. "Nah, I like our kind of chaos." And I knew what he meant. We were lucky, stupidly lucky, to have found each other in the middle of someone else's love story, to have rewritten our own, to still be here, 3 years later, messy, bickering, over caffeinated, in love. And honestly, I wouldn't change a single damn thing. The end. Have you ever fallen for someone you absolutely weren't supposed to, but did anyway? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become a part of our Rainbow Force, and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome.